Hey everyone, I'm Nick.
I'm Vic.
And we're Envy Board Gaming. Today we're talking about Deception Murder in Hong Kong. It's a 4 to 12 player game by Toby Ho. It is by Grey Fox Games. Vic's going to tell you how we play, and we'll be back with our review.
Hi everyone. I'm going to explain how you play Deception Murder in Hong Kong. So this game, everyone is assigned a role. There are 5 in this example that each player will get one of these. They do not tell the other players what their role is, except for the person who gets the forensic scientist. The forensic scientist would reveal that, and they are going to be controlling the game in terms of trying to guide the other players to find the murderer. And so in the beginning of the game, everybody would get their role. The investigators are trying to solve the murder. The murderer is trying to get away with it. And at the beginning of the game, everyone's going to have their eyes closed. And the person who has the murderer card is going to point to these red and blue cards. Everybody's going to have these red and blue cards out in front of them, except for the forensic scientist, because they're trying to help people. They have a different role in the game. So if you're an investigator or a murderer, you're going to have the red and the blue cards in front of you. The red cards are the clue cards. The blue cards are the means cards. So how was the murder done and in what fashion, whereas the red ones will kind of be a guiding clue. And so the murderer, at the beginning, everyone's going to have their eyes closed. The murderer will open their eyes and they will discreetly choose the red and the blue cards that go along with their murder. And the forensic scientist knows this. They'll actually see the murderer do this because the forensic scientist is going to follow the script where they say, everybody close their eyes, reopen your eyes, and they will know. They will know what the means and the clue is. And what they'll do is they're going to use these placards here, these little hard cards, to guide the players. And how they will do this is by marking a bullet on these. So we've got here the locations and cause of death ones. These are standard. They actually stay out. And I'll explain in a second which ones go away and what happens here. But they're going to try, so based on what the murderer chose. So if the murderer chose, for instance, let's say candy and candlestick. You know, they were like the canned. So they went with candy and candlestick discreetly. The forensic scientists would actually know about this, and they could look and say, okay, where could that be? Maybe in a restaurant as a location. So they would just place this bullet right there on the restaurant, and the players would see this, and then they could choose at any time to add a bullet to the next placard that they want. So the cause of death here, they could choose, okay, what could it be? With a candy, candlestick, the means was a candlestick and the clue is candy, They could say it was a suffocation or a severe injury, one of those two, to try to help, even an accident, they could say, and just try to help the other players figure it out. Now, once they've made that, there's a 30-second sort of time that is called the presentation phase, where players will go around, the investigators and the murderer, because the murderer wants to try to get people off of his or her case. They don't want people to know that they're the murderer. They're trying to, the way they win is if no one finds them. So they'll of course participate in this presentation phase because they're going to be telling people who they think did it as they go around the table, and they say, oh well, you know, try to kind of deflect from themselves, if you will. And then at that point, the forensic scientist can choose to swap out any of these below, these not the location or the cause of death, but they can change up the social relationship for a different one. So these other, with the magnifying glass on the back, they can choose a different one. So if, let's say, they had put down lovers for some reason, they put lovers and no one was really understanding it, or they felt like none of this was, it was being misinterpreted, they could ditch that one and introduce a new one for everybody to interpret. And they could say, oh, okay, maybe hint on the corpse. They want to say head to try to point to a candy, a lollipop being in somebody's mouth. And that's kind of how you play. You go around until finally somebody is able to identify the correct clue and the correct means card, so the red and blue cards, and the murderer will then admit that, hey, you got me. Well, the forensic scientist would actually be the one who say, that's correct, and that is how you play Deception Murder in Hong Kong. And we're back for our review of Deception Murder in Hong Kong. One thing I wanted to quickly note that I didn't mention during my explanation is that each player will get these badge tokens. Once they make an accusation, they actually spend this, and that is the only time that they can't keep accusing people in the game. It is a one-time shot. You can discuss during the presentation phase and try to win people over to your side and kind of convince people, change their minds. However, the accusation, when you point to a player and say, you did it with this and that badge token is spent. So just wanted to clarify that quickly.
Yeah.
So this game is an interesting game. It's good for big groups of people. We played it at 6 players before, and we've played it at 5 players?
Yeah.
Yeah, 6 and 5 we've done. So we've had some experience. We didn't play with 12. We didn't play with the most amount. But it is definitely an interesting game in that it is a deduction game.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of those games. We have some, but not too many.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think?
I think we played this, I'm going to say we've played it somewhere around 8 times.
8 times, yeah.
Mostly at 5, some at 6, and we think at 6. It's been a while since those 6 ones, and we were going to play at 8 as well. But we get the gist.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, the best thing about this game is something that Vic touched on, of how the wide range of people you can have. 4 to 12. That's awesome. So, and it's a simple rule set, again, so you can explain it to most people. That's nice. I mean, you can bring it to a party game, and still get that gamery feel, you know, something.
Yeah, without having to be silly, like playing a silly game all the time.
Right. And it's I think it's interesting enough to keep most people's attention. I think most people will enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people we've played with aren't necessarily gamers, and they enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I do think it's overrated, because I do think a lot of people love this game, absolutely love it. I'm not there.
Yeah.
I do like it, though, so I'm not going to give it a negative score, but I'm not going to give it that huge score that maybe some other people might.
Mm-hmm.
It's samey to me. Even, you know, with the tiles changing, it still plays the same, really.
Yeah, nothing much changes with it.
Yeah, and there are variants out there that have tiles that let you change it up a little bit, because I think the designer probably knows that, okay, we will get samey. So
yeah, if you played enough of this in one night.
Let me throw a little twist on these games. For me, I'm going to score it an even 8. So I will recommend it. If you're looking for a game that will fit a lot of players, really scale down and up nicely, bring to a party. Yeah, Deception Murder Hong Kong is one I could recommend.
Yeah.
What do you think, Vic?
Well, I really like the component quality of it beyond the gameplay and the simplicity of it. These nice little hard cards here, they're good. Good to have hard ones instead. They could have given you cards, right? They could have given you dinky cards. Yeah. Little cards for the little clues and the means and stuff. Some of them are interesting, kind of creative, like, oh, a lollipop. A fax machine, what?
Right.
And so it is kind of funny how you can piece these things together, and it can be comical when people are making a story.
Sure.
When they're like doing the presentation phase and they're talking about, Bob had a lollipop and you know, some crazy stuff that they might say. So it is certainly entertaining in that regard. I scored this game a 7.7, so pretty close to Nick's score on this. Not much negative to say, although it is samey and it is simple, and we don't bring it to the table that often because we don't really have a good player count when we haven't maxed it out often. But when we do, you know, it's well received. So I would recommend picking it up if you're looking for another game to change things up. Especially if you've had like the Cards Against Humanity or other party games, Say Anything, you've played different, That's What She Said, whatever, party games, you might want to bring out this one and change up the pace if it's all just laughing and stuff. I don't know about if you were like inebriated. I don't think this game would go so well, because it is...
Yeah, it depends. If everyone's inebriated, maybe.
It could be funny.
I would say you have to at least 5. I'd say 5. You don't want to go under that.
Yeah.
The more the merrier is everything I've heard about this.
Yeah.
So we might like it even more with 8. I don't know.
That's true. We did like it better with the Accomplice when you're playing and there is the Accomplice role, because it's kind of fun to have someone who knows or saw it, that saw the murder and knows what happened, and they can also try to guide people too, because it can sometimes just the luck of the draw with some of these when you and you do get to change them up as the forensic scientist, but some of these clue things, these clue cards are not not perfect for whatever the murderer chose. So the witness and the accomplice are.
We have played more players. We've played with at least 8 because we did have the witness too. It was at my with my family. We've had an accomplice and a witness on both. And there's also an expansion. We didn't talk about that. We're not going to review it. We haven't even done some of the roles that came with the expansion. There's the Inside Man that's shown right here, still in plastic, and there's obviously some other things that came with that expansion. But we haven't needed it because we haven't had that full complement of players. Where I feel like I want to throw that in just yet. But I'm interested to see what the expansion adds before anything else.
Yeah, we'll definitely check that out and let you guys know what we think. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We hope you enjoyed this review. If you liked it, please give us a thumbs up on YouTube and subscribe to our channel for more great content. We thank you for tuning in. See you next time.
Goodbye.